How to light for a horror movie. Hello everybody, my name is Marco Bagnoli, I'm a cinematographer, and today we talk about a horror movie which I think have most of the time the coolest looks. They're very extreme, they're very contrasty. Most of them are shot on film to make feel everything more organic and real. And in this cinematography breakdown, I'm going to show you a horror movie and how you can get a similar look. So this is the first shot we're looking at. We have these two girls sitting on a bed and we're already breaking some rules, which I love as a filmmaker. Normally they're sitting in front of a TV. So the light should actually come from this direction. But when you look at their faces, analyze the nose shadow, the light comes from the side. So why do we do this? That's not light continuity. It looks wrong for most people when you're making movies. But when you want to feel something like one single mood, the whole movie, you want always the tense, contrasty feeling, you have to fake and twist reality a little bit, get a continuity. That's where we sidelight these characters more. This whole movie is a lot of sidelight because it creates very, very much contrast, and contrast helps to sell the illusion of danger and something is wrong a bit more. So how do we set up a shot like this? First thing I would always do is set the camera at the right position and then set your exposure how you want the whole room to feel. We're here at a very low exposure. Everything's already pretty dark because you want to make it feel like it's always rainy outside or something similar, overcast day. So the whole balance of the room should feel very dark. Then problems that can occur is like this. You have a window. So what is when you have a really, really nice day? A lot of sun. That's not the mood you want. So one thing you can actually do is put ND foil and just glue it, tape it onto the window. So you drop the exposure of the whole room and also make everything outside feel a lot colder. And when this movie was shot on film, I don't know, in digital it's a lot easier to do. You would change the white balance also to a lot colder outside. Or you can do the same thing with the ND foil. You just use CTB and place it on the window, and it will also drop the exposure a little bit more, but you can get a little bit more coolish feeling outside. So that's how I would manage the window here. So in digital time, when we're shooting Red, Venice, Alexa, we have a lot of color information. So we'll just put another layer on it of the raw file, change the white balance, make it darker, done. So that's a way how you can do it. Then the next thing they did here is add this little practical. Practicals are our best friend, just add atmosphere and a little bit more interest for the camera in all of our shots. And in a home movie like this, you will see these kinds of lights everywhere. Sometimes there are 10 of them in one shot. It's completely dark. These lamps are very low on exposure most of the time, just that we have something to see, some atmosphere. It just looks pleasant to the eye. And the secret for it is don't just have something like a free bulb standing across, because that would draw too much attention. That's the reason why we have always lamps like this, because they diffuse the light very nicely and to make the source a lot bigger. So big source, always good, and a practical, also very dim. Don't overdo it. We want to keep all our dynamic range. Then, after we done all this, the room exposure is pretty set. And now how do we light these two girls? One thing I would always start with is the key light. And the key comes here obvious from the side. So how do we manage a light like this? We actually have a very, very soft key light. We don't know how much space we have in the room. So placing a light with big softbox, difficult. So what is things we could possibly do? I would place a big bounce board here and then add a light with a spot mount, 300G or something like this. Just shoot it across the room in a very narrow beam so that we hit most of the bounce board so that it bounces back into the scenery. Then you can throw maybe another small diffusion in front of the faces so that we have something like a book light. Maybe the bounce is enough, but what we have to take care is of, you don't want to expose them correctly. When you start to expose them correctly, you lose this feeling of this horror movie. You want everything in general, the skin on a darker exposure. It really would help to sell the look of everything. Then after you've done the key light, you probably still have too much contrast. This is the moment I would use something like a sky panel or any light that has a TV mode on it just in front of them to fill in the shadows, because you can see they're actually pretty flatly lit, but I think the light that just adds a little bit of fill is the TV light that's moving on their faces. And that's how we create a shot like this the first thing you probably notice, or the last thing, is they don't have an edge light. None of them. And you see this in nowadays movies, commercials a lot more, because it starts somehow to look a little bit artificial. When you look at your real environments, how often does it happen that I have a light here on my back? You rather place the person, like here in my camera, at the right position so that she has this nice silhouette with a brighter background, so we don't have to add the edge light that looks unnatural most of the time. So this is a pretty similar situation. We are again in front of a screen, but now the screen is actually full the light source. So we boosted it completely. When it's not enough, this is an all TV. There's several techniques what you can do. Normally you can also put just MC on a screen and then paint it later out. That's VFX work, but sometimes a lot of us have not enough budget to do something like this. So there's some help like AI nowadays. We can just copy the whole shot with motion control and then say, remove please this part of the image, or 3D track a little bit in After Effects. So there's several ways to obviously remove the slide, but because I don't think this TV had enough punch to give her so much exposure. So this is a technique you always have to keep in mind. We in movies or commercial, we paint out lights a lot because otherwise we wouldn't get the contrast and look we want. Then this is a very profile shot. We see her from the side. That is the reason most of the time the light should come very frontal, because lights behave like masks. When you throw them, this light goes in this direction, it starts to wrap across the whole body and face, and that's why the light also stops here and creates this nice separation and nice contrast. Also, what they did very good here is always try to place your main character into forms, circles, triangles, rectangles. It really helps us frame the image a bit better, because our job is to lead the view of the audience to the right position. And with this shot, placing her in the center of the frame, then also in front of this window with leading lines from this table and this machines here on the side, we have no other way to look exactly at her. Also, she's most likely in the brightest part of the image, which also helps. And here they use a technique, like I said to you before, but they done actually both. They placed her where she is very dark in front of a brighter background, which helps her separate her from the background to create a more three-dimensional feeling, but they also add this very strong edge light actually. In this shot we have this very nice isolated person in the frame, and to create a look like this, it's actually pretty easy to do, because the first thing what I like about the shot is this isolated feel. We are very far away, we don't have trees or some irritating things here, just this, I don't know the English word, Brunnen, well, something like this. Write it down in the comments, let me know. And her going in there. And you can see we have a lot of white shadows of trees, giving this shot nice three-dimensional feeling. Also leading lines. We have our view is now again beaming into her, because she's the brightest part of the image. She's in front of a form, and we have this nice isolated feel where everything around her is just empty. So how do we light a scene like this? Actually, the only thing you have to do is use some big lights, 2 M40s or something like that would be enough, and go very far away with them, very far. So when the trees are somewhere here, probably a lot further away, not in the frame, trees would be probably here, and then the lights should be even more farther away. So, and the pretty side lids, and then you create this long shadows there. It's a night scenery, so everything else would be completely black, so you need this contrasty and white light to also enhance the ambience a little bit. Otherwise you just have completely black, bright, completely black, bright, completely black, bright. So you need this little bit of feathering, so that's the reason why you put your lights as far away as possible. But at the end of the day, this is a very cool look. Then we have this outdoor situation, really nice, with the umbrella, boys under it, and overall you already noticed this video is very blue because blue-green is scary. Very extreme color grading. A lot of movies have this, horror movies, but they gave him a really interesting exposure. When you have this dark situation like here and you're outside, you're adding this kind of soft light, you get a really pleasing three-dimensional popping look, I think. But the overall mood outside has to be really dark, and then you can actually see in his face, they probably just use something like a big light dome, 150, put it in the right position, maybe another diffusion with a frost frame in between. The reason why they do this is under the umbrella, it's very dark. So and you want to see the emotion, the feeling, the acting of the person, so you add this light. So this light has a very practical usage so that we can actually see emotion from the character, but also look-wise, I think it's very nice and poppy. Maybe they also added a little bit of neck on this side, or maybe in very subtle situation, this would not happen here, but the sun is very low, then you just diffuse it with a butterfly and then add a flag on the side. You would get a similar look, but we can actually see the sun is somewhere here, a pretty overcast situation. So this would not be the sun. That would be just a 1200D with a light dome or something like this to just give him this nice key that his face really pops out of this umbrella. So if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate subscription from you. My name is Marco Bagnoli and I'll see you next time.